Welcome to another edition of PENSDOWN. This is the conversation we have with journalists about their journalism journeys. We get to move into the skin of journalists to find out the issues that challenge them in the line of business. There are a lot of things they go through behind the scenes that they would normally not talk about. This is why we have this program. We have dedicated this platform solely for telling you what happens behind the scenes before you get to hear that breaking news, that political story, that entertainment news, that sports story, and everything in between. Today, I have a senior colleague with me. He is a multiple award-winning journalist with over 15 years experience in journalism. He is a reverend minister and a fellow of President Barack Obama's Young African Leaders Initiative, YALI, with 15 global awards in business journalism to his credits. Reverend Dr. Klutse was appointed an advisory board member as well as the communications director for YALI in 2016, where he worked closely with the US Department of State, IREX, and other organizations to implement youth-led programs for the youth of Africa. He is currently the founder, publisher, and editor-in-chief of Business Day Media, a business and financial newspaper in Ghana, which also streams on www.businessdayghana.com. With some of Ghana's most prolific and award-winning journalists within its tables, Business Day newspaper is Ghana's most influential and respected business publication, offering incisive reports on Ghana's finance and economy, touching on a wide range of sectors, namely but not limited to banking and finance, commodity and markets, agric, the cocoa industry, tourism and hospitality, real estate, transportation, international trade, sports, and everything in between. He holds a PhD in Media and Communication from the University of Leeds, UK, MBA Marketing Option, and BSc Marketing First Class Honors, all from the University of Ghana Business School, as well as a diploma in journalism. He is an alumnus of journalism and executive management programs at several prestigious institutions, including the International Institute for Journalism in Germany, Wharton Business School of the University of Pennsylvania, USA, Columbia University Graduate School of Journalism, USA, Northwestern University of Illinois, and the Institute of Commercial Management, UK. He currently sits as the Director of Media for the Church of Pentecost, the largest Pentecostal brand in Ghana, with presence in 135 countries and counting. My guest today is Reverend Dr. Felix Dela Klutse. You are welcome, sir.
Thank you, my brother. How are you doing?
Very well. Happy New Year to you.
And many happy returns, bro.
Right.
Good.
First of all, at what point while growing up did you realize that there's a journalist in you that you needed to harness?
Well, growing up, when I got to GSS and I realized that, look, I'm going to be a journalist at all costs. It's something that has been imbibed in me. You know, when I normally tell people, no one is created useless. Before you come to this earth, you are coming with a purpose. And so from eternity, I mean, maybe God decided that, look, growing up, this guy is supposed to be a journalist. So when I got to GSS 1, I told my mom that after secondary school, it's a very risky job. You know, we've been hearing news where journalists are being killed, you know, for voicing out their voice, and then also coming out with news that are so, you know, detrimental to other people's, you know, rights. So yeah. I don't want you to be a journalist, but I can feel that inner, you know, joy in me anytime I hear about journalism. So that's it from GSS.
From GSS.
So I decided that only after GSS, let me go to secondary school and read general arts, and then from there
Mm. This is interesting.
And I recall, I recall my teachers, especially in GSS. I'm so good at science, so they decided that I should read, science and become a medical doctor. So I recall sitting in a science class in secondary school for only 1 week and changed the course, ran to the arts class because that has been something that I wanted badly, to be a journalist. Yeah.
Is there a history of journalism in your family? Is there anybody at all, distant or immediate, in your family that has a media or journalism background?
No, the first person in my family to become a journalist. There was nothing like that.
If you don't have any side, then how did you get the inspiration? Was it because you were listening to news? You took interest in the things some people were doing, some newscasters? I mean, those days, GTV and the radio Ghanaians were very paramount. Did you take inspiration from any practicing journalist then?
I grew up in a very typical village.
Okay.
Even at that time, we don't even have electricity, let alone be listening to any radio or TV stuff like that.
Wow.
We just use lantern in a local palinkobobo and to be able to study. Yeah, but I just felt that, look, there is something that I could do by giving voice to the voiceless. So I don't even know who a journalist is by then, because at that typical village, you don't even hear anybody talking about that. Growing up, everybody's talking about being a lawyer, medical doctor, or being a minister of state, or being a president. But I think during that time, we used to listen to sometimes GBC because, it's everywhere. And being the class prefect, and then when I even got to classes, I was the school prefect.
Okay.
And then at that time, the school had a Sanyo radio where I was supposed to be keeping that radio station, that radio set, and then bringing it every day, to school so that we could. So that's where I even developed, the interest. But my setup, we don't have anybody that I look up to that I can say was a person who really influenced me. That was why I said initially that coming on this earth, you come with a purpose. And if that's what God has ordained for you as a calling, no matter what, you fall in those pleasant places. So that has been my story.
Going through your profile, I realize it is about print journalism, business and economics reporting. Has it always been print journalism from day one when you took your pen?
Sure. Because after, back in school, I decided to go and do internship. And from there, before even I got to Statesman for my internship, back in school, which I used to go to Parliament and report, go to court and then report and give it to lecturers to mark and correct. So when it's time for my internship, and I was placed as Statesman, a newspaper, and decided to, practice what I've been taught. My boss, Gabby, Otchere-Darko, asked me whether I've been trained already or have worked in any media house already. I said no, it's because I've been worrying. And instead of being an intern, I was employed rather. I went there with Richard Sky of City FM, and the two of us got employed. So I spent most of my time, with the print media, and it really gives you or compels you to be able to write more analytical stories.
You mean that you went to the Statesman as an intern, but you ended up getting a job, so that while technically you were on internship, you were actually on a payroll working?
Sure. I was on a payroll working, and then I started earning salary right from internship. So while in school, I don't know anything called unemployment at all. I recall when we finally completed, I was posted to do my national service, at Akachi District Assembly. We're trying as much as possible whether I could get statesman, but after completing of the national service, I came back to the statesman again. And sometimes I sit on interview panels where I have to interview my own colleagues that were classmates to me.
Now, this is interesting.
Sure.
How priceless has that training, that opportunity you got at the statesman been to your entire journalism journey?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I always tell people it has sometimes you are done with a story and you think that, look, you have done your best. And then your editor, Gabby Otchere-Darko, asks you, what is the angle of your story? And you explain everything, you think that you have done the best. And you tell you this is rubbish. And, and then take your script, fold it, and throw it into the rubbish.
Just like that.
So, yeah, just like that. And, he will always tell you, even though you are an intern, you must be able to rupture. So right from an assignment, if you are coming to the office, you must have like about 5 angles to your story. He will tell you news is what is new. So if you are writing the same story, if you have attended the same press conference with graphic, journalists from Graphic, Ghanaian Times or Joy FM and the rest, and you are writing the same story, who will buy the newspaper? Because if someone buys Graphic and read the same story in Graphic, why will it buy Statesman and read? So you must always make sure that your story is unique, very, very unique. So by the time you are getting to the office, tell you either not to suffer that fate. Have so many angles. Ask yourself these questions. Ask yourself where I'm picking the story from. Will any other journalist pick the story from that angle? Will they buy the paper? So you become so creative, and it has really, really helped me. But when you get to the office, that's the first question is going to ask, what is the angle of your story? If the first angle is not, you tell him the second one. Well, maybe the second one would have fallen on so many, falling on a very good ear, and he will tell you that, look, let this, story go. So he'll tell you, if you always want to get a front page, then you needed to be creative. He pushed everybody to the wall, and that has really, really, helped some of us. And then he will tell you, you don't need to look for an assignment, wait for, an assignment to come. Look for hard news. That makes you a star. So it has really helped us. Sometimes you are listening to morning shows and then from radio stations or TV stations, and you are getting a lot of news angles there so that you can be able to follow up and do hard news. So it has really, really challenged, me.
Was there a point that any of those push for top quality ever almost broke you? Was there a point?
Yeah, of course, really. Sometimes as humans as you are, you are, demoralized sometimes because you thought you have done your best and you are putting a lot of effort, and then you got to a time you realize that, look, the effort is not being appreciated at that time. But when we got to know that, look, now with the training that we're getting, I could be able to rub shoulders with seniors, and I can see myself comparing myself to my other colleague journalists, and I realized that, look, they couldn't have an opportunity to go through that tough training. So when we get on an assignment, all of us in the same assignment, there are certain things that I pick and mix my news, sometimes get the front page, and they are discussing it. And the various editors will ask their own journalists, were you at the same program that Felix attended? And then they will say, yes. Why have you gotten this story? And he has gotten this unique story, and you have missed that story. So it has always been a challenge. So sometimes when we go on an assignment like that, other guys choose to ask me, where can they pick their stories from so that they are not, attacked by their superiors. So that has been.
You mentioned that he also encouraged you to come up with your own story ideas.
Sure.
And follow them, build them into good stories so that exclusivity becomes the soul of your stories. How did that shape your entire journalism life, even after the time you got people under you and you had to tutor them on how to do things right?
If you get to so many media houses, we have, especially the young ones, they're always looking for, assignment, the letter, invitation letter coming before they can be able to bloom out and then gather news. And then, those of us who work in the private sector, is not every invitation that you get, unlike the state-owned media houses.
That's right.
So it means that if you don't have those invitation letters to attend functions where you can provide news, that means if it's 1 month, if no invitation letter is coming, you are not going to gather any news. You are not going to provide any news.
Yeah.
And you see, if you are a lazy journalist, it will fish you out because your articles that have been published, it calls for creativity. So if the news is willing to come to you, you go for the news.
Yeah.
That's why, as a journalist, one of the your hallmark or one of the traits is to knows news. Someone who knows for news.
Yeah.
So if you are nosing for news, you don't even care for an invitation at all. Even if the invite comes, you are not only looking for he said.
That's right.
You are doing more analytical stories. You are asking yourself, this person says so and so, and so what? If you invite me to Bank of Ghana and you tell me that, look, or statistical service, you say inflation has increased by 5%. The question I ask myself is, and so what?
That's right.
And so what? So what is the effect of that on the economy? So when I'm writing that story, I see that, okay, inflation for January has increased by 5% compared to that of 20 December. And because of that, so it passed the and so what test.
Yeah.
And also helping to widen the scope of my story. So I'm always analytical. Sometimes I can end up writing the same story. I can change it over and over again just to get the best out of it. I'm never ever satisfied with my write-ups.
Which year did you first step at the stage, man? Which year was that?
That was 2001.
2001.
Yeah, because I entered journalism school 2000, and then 2001 I stepped into statesman.
So my introduction of you as having done over 15 years is in moderation.
Sure.
Because last year is 20 years. This is 21 years.
Sure.
Now, do you still see yourself as a journalist or you have retired? Tell me something.
I'm not retired. I mean, once a journalist is always a journalist. You see, sometimes if God wants to use you in life, He will let you pass through so many things, as a stepping stone. And I recall the Church of Pentecost is always, calling me to, be a minister, which I always ran away from 2008. Sometimes people will tell you, God is calling you. I say, I know, but I'm not going because I don't want to be a pastor. Yeah, but I realized that when I came into the ministry, 2015, I still do what I was doing, now being the media director for the church. I'm still doing the same thing. We have a magazine called Pentecost Fire that's about 100 pages.
Okay.
We print 40,000 copies. We just printed 40,000 copies, and it's also Amazon, and it goes to have a solid TV station called Pen TV that we manage. We have a radio station, that we are manning, and then so it's so big, very big, So it's just that I'm working more for the kingdom business than,
That's right. That's right. At what point did the idea to float your own newspaper, the Business Day newspaper, come up?
Okay. So from Statesman, I got a scholarship to study in Germany. And that's where I learned about business reporting, in 2006.
Okay.
So when I came back, at that time, business journalists were very few in the country. Everybody is trying to venture into politics, environmental health, those easy area. But business reporting is one technical area. So after the training, I was poached by Daily Guide. So I worked for Daily Guide since 2006 and up to 2011.
Okay.
Yeah, and then later I decided that, look, it's about time to say bye-bye.
Okay.
And then start something, to be write more business news where you can also employ people and affect more life.
Yeah.
So I decided to virtually 2012 started something. Initially, it was Economic Tribune.
Okay.
That I was publishing, and then in 2014, Business Day in Nigeria came to me, that's the management, and said, look, they realized that we're doing something great. If there's a need for us to partner so that we can have a bigger brand. And so the name has to be changed to Business Day.
Okay.
Day Nigeria, Business Day Ghana, and we have a lot of South Africa as well.
Okay.
So yeah, that was it.
Wow. 21 years. If we have to reduce your age by 22 years, would you still choose journalism?
Oh, sure. I will still choose journalism. It got to a time, in fact, your earlier question that you asked, whether sometimes you are worried about when you are being pushed. Yes, it got to a time. I said, look, you are being pushed so much, you are putting so much effort, but the salary is not too good. And I recall I was in a group with a lot of guys, and they've all stopped. But I focused. I'm someone who is very focused in I'm not looking at the money per se, but I'm looking at the experience. When you get the experience, the money will come. Okay. So I normally tell them, the more problems you face in life, and then the more problems you solve in life, the more money you make. Yeah. So as you get the experience and you are solving a lot of writing problems, you'll be making a lot of money out of that. And now when they left, up to now, they can't find their food on so many. It got to a time I nearly stopped, but I was focused. And then if you give me the opportunity still to be a journalist, I will be a journalist. Absolutely, yeah.
Your appearance on this show for me is very important. The reason is this: you are a journalist practicing, you are a publisher, you are an employer. Now, one recurring decimal of a statement that I get to hear on this platform almost all the time is that journalism doesn't pay. Why are you the employers, or why are you not remunerating your journalists well?
Well, it differs from one media house to the other. I mean, if you come to my end, anything that we get, we are just like brother, we share it. I mean, and so there is that kind of motivation that is there. Okay. But generally, the media house, the industry itself, we don't have so much money, especially those of us in the print media. You get the story, you don't have a printing machine, you have to send it for printing somewhere, and the printing alone takes all your revenue. Yeah. Sometimes the advertisements are also not forthcoming, especially those working in the private media houses. So it becomes a challenge, for a media owner to pay. Sometimes all your personal savings has to go into this because you don't want to, collapse something that you have already started. So generally, the industry, is cash strapped because we don't have so much money compared to the banking, compared to the oil sector and the rest. And then journalism is one of the areas that employs a lot of people because you need so much reporters to be able to cover so many news. So instead of maybe employing one or two people, journalists or one like other organizations that could say, okay, I can only take 2 or 3 people to pay them well. In media, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Because this is an area of specialization. If you pick someone who has no specialty in business reporting, and you ask him to report anything on business reporting, what is going to happen is that those in the banking sector are not going to even read anything about you at all, because the guys do not really understand the situation. Yeah, that's why we say journalism is a calling. If it is not a calling, it's not a passion, you come in and you think that it's a cash cow, that is where you can make a lot of money, you will be disappointed. So that is the truth. We don't make so much money to be able to do.
Bribery, corruption, bait to compromise is commonplace in the practice of journalism. How many times were you approached to compromise the facts of any story you were doing for some amount of money?
That's a very good question. In fact, on several occasions, on several occasions where someone thinks that you are stepping on his toe, and then when this story comes out, his reputation is on the line. They come with so many enticing packages. Look, kill this story, I'll pay you this amount of money. I recall back in 2010, where I had this juicy story. I met the man. The man told me, look, whether good or bad, he will never want his name in the media. And so, how much do you want? I will pay you. And I said, I don't need any money. He said, no, then you are going to be poor. I said, no, I've always been like this, I've never been poor. He said, look, all the big guys come here and I give them money. I don't at all. But, I went ahead, the fact that I get all my stuff right, I take my time to do all my investigations. I mean, I don't let those things compromise, because lie, if you get money to lie about something, lie has an expiring date. And it means that and lie about things. So for me, I mean, it's for the good of the public. Nothing influenced me, especially for money, to be able to turn an angle of a story in favor of something. No, I won't do that. My conscience alone will not bear me.
Okay. What was the most challenging assignment you ever had to do?
A lot.
Oh, wow.
A lot. Even the very first day I joined Statesman as intern. Normally, if you are an intern, you're supposed to go on an assignment with a senior
reporter.
colleague.
Yes.
Yes. But those were the time when Yana issue with Dagbon's cases, started. And I was given a letter to attend a press conference about Yana issue. I said, wow, this is a big story. Where that press conference, I met people like Kwesi Pratt, Kubaku, and I said, what? And all those guys, what am I going to do with this story? It was a great challenge. I couldn't even sleep till the following day when I was even at the press conference, because they told me that's going to be a front page story. And that was my first day of reporting. So it has been tough. It has been tough. That's what. So many cases. And then the second one that I will never ever forget was where I went to Nigeria, Niger Delta, when Ghana discovered oil. In 2010. Some of us were sent together to go to study how the Nigerian oil sector has been, so that this issue of resource curse, Ghana will not repeat itself. We go to Niger Delta and we're trying to interview those in the community. And we're told that, look, around we say, there has been cities before. And it has been journalists who set this place ablaze. And, their write-ups turned the community like this. So there was a war. And so for them, any journalist who comes here will never return. I wanted to pick all of us hostage. And by the time we even go to that community, it took us about 3 hours on a boat. There is no road leading to that community. And the river too has been polluted with this oil, We're on those boats, it was raining, got to the community, looking for a story, poor journalist looking for a story, to be told that no journalist comes here and return. It was one of the tough,
You mean they told you in your face that they are going to slaughter you?
They will slaughter us. Yes, and we are not going to come back. It took the intervention of the one leading us to be able to rescue us from, that tragedy. It was tough.
When you returned from that trip,
yeah,
did you, after sitting there, hopefully, definitely after such encounters, when you get back home, you want to sit down and really think back whether this really happened to you? Whether you were really the one who went through all this. Did it make you shake or make your convictions shake about continuing in journalism, or it rather emboldened you to go on further?
Yeah, right from the go, that these are occupational hazards.
Yeah.
Every profession has its own challenges. So, I took it like those are one of the things. After all, growing up, we heard of a lot of things like that, where journalists are kidnapped, murdered, shot, and all kind of things, threatened. So prior to that, I've received a lot of threats. Text messages, calls, because you have done a story and someone is not happy. So I just took it as one of those things and then move on. Because if you want that to really, really worry you, you can achieve a lot in your profession. So I just learn one or two things from it and then move ahead. So that has been, yeah.
How are you combining these two full-time jobs you now have? You are a publisher of a newspaper, and you also sit in the exalted position as director of media for the Church of Pentecost. How many hours do you sleep in a day?
The question everybody used to ask me, how many hours I sleep in the day, how I combine. But you see, one of the most important things is to plan your life, very well. And if you plan your life very well, you can do so many things, even within 30 minutes or an hour. Sometimes I choose to tell people, people trade business to effectiveness. So you see people moving helter-skelter, they are everywhere roaming about. You think that they are really effective, but they are just busy for nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm someone who is very organized, and I plan my activities very well. When the signs are being written on the wall that definitely I'll get into the ministry, I try to train all my guys back at the business. I just train them very well, so that if I'm not around, that vacuum shouldn't be created at all. Because anytime I travel out of the country for maybe conferences and the rest, that sometimes take me 2 months and stuff, still the work goes on. So one of the hallmark of a successful leader is to ensure that if you are not there, the jobs must still go on. If I'm not there, the company is not still doing well, then I have failed. So as they are managing that place, sometimes I only come in to just offer one or two, advices, and also concentrate more on these assignments. And I believe strongly, as I work for the Lord, seek ye first the kingdom of God and its righteousness,
and all other things.
Other things that people are struggling for come, to you, just like magnets.
That's right.
So
you are the first journalist in Ghana with a PhD, practicing journalist.
Sure.
And this is the first time I have heard about it. In places like Nigeria, it's in abundance, but in Ghana, we don't have it.
Sure.
Are you thinking of going into academia as well?
Oh, no. Well, if it comes, why not? Normally, we have a Pentecost University. We have a university there where you could lecture. They also do communication studies. So when the opportunity comes, why not? I recall the first time, the moment I've defended my PhD thesis and the news came out that I successfully defended the thesis. I had University of Development Studies calling me to come over to lecture. A lot of universities, calling me. Even Nigeria, I'm getting a lot of calls. I mean, so many universities that I have not applied for. Yeah, a lot of them. Some also call me for some kind of a consultancy, and then the rest. But I also pay allegiance to my church. I came to the church as nobody, but through the grace of God, I'm where I am today. And so the little I can also do for God, I pay critical attention to that one first. And then when the rest comes, I just do it.
One of the things I even forgot is that you are also a reverend minister, as well as a media director and a practicing journalist.
Sure.
How are you managing all these? Each of them looks like a full-time assignment.
Sure.
Because once a reverend minister, if at midnight, a member of your assembly calls you that there's an issue and you should pray for them or you should come over to their house for some assistance, I know you will not hesitate. How are you combining all these things in your 24 hours? Or do you have more than 24 hours in a day?
No. The common commodity to every human being is time, whether you are tall, short, dark, or indigo, what have you. We all have 24 hours in the day. And sometimes you hear people saying, I don't have time. You need to create it. So if you're not well organized in life, and you're always someone who procrastinates things, you'll find it difficult. So as I said earlier on, I'm someone who is very focused and I plan my activities very, very well so that I can be able to, achieve a lot of things that I want to do. And you remember, it said grace is sufficient. If you have grace, you can do so many things. So grace coupled with proper planning, that is what is really, really, helping me. Very, very helpful. Sometimes, you have to sacrifice so much sleep. There are more sleeps after death. So this is your time to serve your generations and make an impact. If your generation has expired, that's it. So I try as much as possible to do the little that I can and make sure that when it comes to the pastoral aspect, I affect lives there positively, and then when it comes to the media aspect to both the church and then, out of the church, I also help to be able to affect life out there positively. Remind you, the media aspect is to provide information, world-class information, so that it can help decision makers and policy makers, including Christians, to be able to make informed decisions. So, that's what I'm doing.
You work in the print journalism space. The introduction of social media reset the frontiers of print journalism. How has your platform been able to navigate and keep its head above the water?
Great. That's a very good question. I foresaw this coming, growing up. And when I was even invited by President Obama, one of my projects has to do pure digital media. And I was looking for an opportunity why can't we digitize our print so that it becomes like you're perusing it on your devices. So it was an idea that I really mooted and get some experts who advised me. So as I speak now, more into digital aspect, we have our newspaper in the PDF format being sold on a platform called Press Radar, where all the Financial Times, UK, all of them are on those platforms. It's a Canadian-based organization. And currently, even the US Embassy subscribed to our newspaper, the digital one. People are no longer interested in the hard copy, and which I think is good, because with the digital one, I don't need to spend money on printing.
That's right.
Yes, I don't need to spend money on printing. So the money that will be spent on printing, I can use it to motivate my guys
Exactly.
a little bit.
Exactly.
And we do also provide news content in the format of SMS format through MTN subscribers and stuff like that, so that we make some few monies out of that place too. So the digital media is really helping.
What has been the most exciting assignment you ever undertook? Most exciting.
The most exciting assignment?
Yes.
That I have ever covered?
Exactly.
The most exciting assignment was when Yadima died and I have to sneak into Togo when the borders were closed. Yeah. Those back in, I think, 2004, 2005, thereabouts.
Yeah.
And I got to the border. I was only in slippers because the borders were closed and no one was supposed to enter. And they asked me one French, question. Ça va, ça va très bien. And they asked me another one. I said, no, I can't speak. And they said, international journalist, you can't speak French? I say, yes. And they don't want to allow anybody. And I told them that I'm a Togolese, and you could see my father just came down from Ghana, so I have to go there and then take something from there. And they told me they are giving me 30 minutes to leave the country. But I stayed there for 1 week in the country, and people were being gunned down in my presence, but it has been one of the very interesting, I don't know how I'll describe it, but very, very interesting assignment I have ever undertaken. That has been my first international assignment back this man newspaper. Very, very, very. It taught me so many things.
How far are you taking journalism? Is it lifetime? Is it marriage?
Yeah, it's a lifetime profession. In fact, I have not changed. For instance, after my diploma, I went to read a first degree in marketing. And then my master's also in marketing. And then PhD back to communication studies. So that should tell you a clue. I've done all those. I recall when I sat in the business class, when I introduced myself, everybody was saying, why can't you go to school of communication? Why didn't you go to school of communication studies? I said, no, I want to be a business journalist specialist so I can understand the language very well, so that when I'm writing, I know what I'm talking about. So I have never even diverted to become a marketing expert, but the business training has really helped me to specialize in business reporting. So
my very final question, you've achieved a lot in journalism, but you still remain a bundle of humility. I have known you, I think, since 2007 or thereabouts. What is it that makes you walk without airs, no aura, no air of arrogance or self-importance? How exactly have you made it?
Yes, the good book Bible clearly tells us if you humble yourself before the Lord, he will always lift you up. And in the field of sports, we have so many players, but few stars. And so, and still, if you want to continue to be a star, every star is having a coach. So you play to the role. Just humble yourself. Whatever I ask you to do, you do. I normally tell people, if you are not humble, to our coach of life, Jesus is our only coach of life, you become a cockroach. So, humility doesn't take anything away from you. It doesn't. You will get to learn so many things. But if you're arrogant, you can't be approachable. So humility is a trait. I don't see why I should be arrogant, because I'm not a custodian of wisdom. Even so many achievements, it's not from me. Sometimes I wonder, why do I even win this award? Pure grace. So if I've gotten those wisdom from God, why should I boast? I should rather be helping people, with that. Yeah, I don't see why I should boast at all.
Let me pull the brakes here. This edition is special to me because of the man involved. He is one of the colleagues I look up to when it comes to matters of integrity, because I have personally monitored him for so many years. And I'm convinced that if we have to point out journalists that represent integrity in the true sense of the word, he is one man whose name will come in handy. Reverend Dr. Felix Dela Klutse. He's my boss. He's the man I've had the privilege and honor to interview. He is the director of media for the Church of Pentecost, an exalted position, but he works without airs. When you meet him in town, if we don't point him out, you may not even know he's the one we are talking about. Such is the humility he carries. Thank you very much, sir, for this opportunity.
Pleasure.
It's been Pens Down, Journalism Journeys. That's what we talk here. We'll be back next time with another edition. Stay tuned, and thanks for being with us.